Now what's interesting about this area is, and I'll try and show you some doorsteps in a second without showing any door numbers. As you can see, and obviously they're Hindu symbols, and my knowledge of the partition of India, the history between Hindus and Muslims is very, very limited, okay? But from the research that I've done, it states that LE5, which is where we are now, has long been a place where people who follow Islam have lived. And naturally there's been this spatial polarization where people who follow Hinduism have moved into LE4. And I don't know how well they've got on over the years, but obviously recently there has been some tension because a number of people who follow the Hindu religion have moved into LE5. Now, why that's a problem, potentially, is that they drink alcohol. The Hindu religion has a lot of festivals, so people stay up drinking and partying, and it has caused quite a lot of tension between the two communities that have become one, really, to some extent. There was an issue after a cricket match in which India and Pakistan had played each other, and India won, and the celebrations were deemed to be a little bit over the top, and that created more tension, and a lot of the mainstream media blamed the civil unrest on that. But when you look into it a little bit further, there's a lot more to it than that. And a couple of people who watched my video that was up for about 3 hours, they pointed that out, saying, no, you're wrong, it isn't just about that cricket match, it goes a lot deeper than that. So I've had a little look anyway, and what I can gather and ascertain is, I don't want to be boring about this because you know, you can go on too much about politics, but my understanding is the BJP, the ruling Hindu party of India, they follow a fairly right-wing ideology called Hindutva, and the RSS are involved. And with the civil unrest that happened in Leicester over a period of time, there was accusations that Hindutva had infiltrated British culture and come over from India. And this resulted in various marches taking place, alleged misinformation online from many influencers from both sides of the argument. But there is quite a good report that does cover it quite well, and that's done by Charlotte Littlewood of the Henry Jackson research body. Now, I was quite surprised that the mainstream media had covered this area just a matter of a few weeks ago. There was one of the rags had uncovered a report on a street I'm going to show you in a second called Mornington Street, saying that in the UK it's the street with the least amount of English speakers in the whole of the country. And this was followed up by a visit by Ben Leo from GB News, who came here and started filming down there, and, you know, in true GB News style, or media style, decided it was a little bit intense and he felt intimidated and he had to leave quickly and this, that and the other. So I wanted to come and have a look down there to see what it's really like and see whether that's right or not, or whether it's just clickbait, really. So we'll do just that in a second, because it didn't particularly look like anything had really happened. And the last time I came down here, I saw this. You see that rat there? Little rat there, if you could see it. And this was the scariest thing I saw. So to give you an idea of the, obviously I'm showing you the sights, but in terms of smells, There is a distinct smell of weed coming from a lot of houses. The Hindu houses that we walked past, there was a lot of joss sticks, you know, jasmine, that kind of thing. So just give you an idea of smell-o-vision as well. So we're just heading towards Mornington Street now. Oh, there's a fade barber there. There's your flag. Always a flag in these videos, isn't there? This one's got another message on: silence is complicity. Be on the right side of history. Can I ask why you don't want to be filmed? Can I ask why you don't want to be filmed? Can I ask why you don't want to be filmed? Why? Yeah, why not? Why? Aren't you proud of what you're doing?
No, I just don't like being on camera, mate. That's my choice.
No, you look good though.
No, it's my choice, mate.
Yeah, but it's a public area, mate. You can't stop me filming.
Well,
you can't though, can you?
I can't stop you filming, but that's my wish, mate.
All right. Well, I'll try to keep that as much as I can, but
yeah.
you know,
I'm not going to stop you. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to stop you.
You can't stop me,
No,
mate.
I didn't say. Well, I could if I bloody pulled out a gun and shot you.
Well, you could try, yeah.
No, but I'm not going to do that. But.
Who are you, mate? Who are you?
Pardon?
Who are you?
I don't have to tell you who I am. I'm just here to film.
No, you are.
Yeah.
But
I'm not being antagonistic.
I'm not being antagonistic. I just don't like
you just
being on
said
film.
you're going to pull out a gun and shoot me.
I was joking. Come on, honestly.
Well, it's not funny, is it?
No, I'm not. I've just come here to do my thing. That's it. And I don't want to be photographed. That's it. That's my choice.
Fair enough, man. Now, like I said, I'll try and keep.
No, but if you said to me, right, fine. All you need to do is.
I did initially, and then I asked you why you don't want to.
No, but you don't need to ask me because I've made it clear. That's it.
Well, I'm sorry.
You know, no.
It's a public area.
I know it's a public area, but out of courtesy, I thought you might. But if you don't want to, if you want to, that's what you want to do, then fine. You know.
Come on, sir, come over here. Get on the right side of history.
Right side of history. Rise for what is right. How long can we deny? They're the messages. And obviously you saw that guy mention, come over here, to the guy who said he could pull a gun out and shoot me to stop me filming him. And he said, come over here on the right side of history. So it must be very much a catchphrase that they use. One of the problems is that there's very little in terms of people getting together and that assimilation of different cultures all living side by side. And what's being created, and you see it in Leicester and a lot of cities, are almost like small versions of the countries that they came from. You know, councils are paying for interpreters to speak the language. You know, you can watch on satellite telly programs from where you come from, etc, etc, you know. And yes, I know it happens in Benidorm with Brits abroad and so on. So far so good on Mornington Street. And like I say, the house prices are around about 200,000 or so for these. So they're not cheap, they're not bargain basement or anything, you know. It's quite an expensive house to buy, particularly if it's a first time purchase. So you may recognise some of this scenery. Obviously I'm not going to film inside people's houses or anything, just don't do that, do you? But we'll just walk the length of it and see how scary it really is. So I'm just about to walk onto Narborough Road, if anybody knows it in Leicester. It's a big thoroughfare into the city. And I think it's quite popular with students and that kind of thing, but it has actually been analysed by the London School of Economics, I believe it was, as the most culturally diverse street in the UK. So there we are, let's have a look. So if you were a student here, I'm going to take you down memory lane a little bit. Right, so every aspect, every part of the world is down this street. Okay, so what do we know about it? Well, Richard III banged his head. Well, he was dead at the time after the battle at Bosworth. Banged his head on a bridge. An old crone had said that would happen. Well, we know that Channel 4, the purveyors of DEI, they once chose a number of residents who had businesses and lived down here to orate voiceovers for their programmes, you know, the introductions and that kind of thing. There was also an exhibition on the BBC website called Pop Into the Shops, which featured this street as well. So it's said that there's people from 35 different countries down here, which really is the world on a street, isn't it? Storm clouds brewing. Just recently on Leicester Live, in April actually, following a stabbing in this area, one of the residents said that they think that Narborough Road is the worst area for crime in the whole of Leicester. And you can actually read that article on Leicester Live, published on the 14th of April. And another person said there's absolutely no safety around here, so they feel really threatened. Which is a shame, isn't it? Because for many years this was always seen as a harmonious street where people lived side by side, they helped each other out with businesses, so if you got a free haircut, you give a pizza and that kind of thing, a bit of bartering. But just recently this harmony has been called into question, really, with some of the worst kind of crimes happening in the area. Now, given that white British people are the minority now in Leicester, it's quite interesting that Leicester is the birthplace, allegedly, of modern English. And it was formed out of a situation where the Anglo-Saxons and the Vikings sat down after setting aside their differences and communicating with each other and forming part of that language, really. Little side note, the River Soar runs through Leicester because of the textile factories and the residue that came from them. A lot of people said it used to be pink in colour, which is interesting, isn't it? And the slightly more mature of you that are watching, you may remember some of the lost stations, the rail stations. We've got Campbell Street that's no longer with us, Westbridge, Belgrave Road and Humberstone Road, which I've just walked down actually. If that brings back any happy memories for you. So when I say a little bit tongue-in-cheek on my other videos, you know, I'm walking down a typical British street, well, this is that one time when really it's not tongue-in-cheek at all, is it? It really is nothing that resembles a standard British street, or certainly something that we once knew as a British street, with the traditional grocers and so on. So similar to Tesco Express, the signage and things. So you've got a number of mini markets and so on. Obviously you've got your barbers, smoky fades there. Big Bad John. So there may be some businesses that you've actually visited. You might have had a pizza in Big John's perhaps. Let us know in the comments. Tell us about it. Was it a good one? Or maybe you've had a coffee in Bar Coffee Europa there on Norman Street. So talking of Gary Lineker, his father used to sell fruit and veg at Leicester Market. Leicester was the home of the first, or is the home of the first Jain Temple as well, which opened in 1988 on Oxford Street in Leicester. So people are watching of a certain religious persuasion will probably be familiar with that. And the Beatles, they got around, didn't they? They played 3 times in Leicester, all at the De Montfort Hall, twice in 1963, and then obviously after they broke big, they played again in 64, and they got paid £850 that time and did 10 songs. That was on the 10th of October. Now £850 then is now around about 15,000 today, so not bad money even back then, really, considering they'd only just broke. So okay, so Leicester is also said to have the first ever traffic warden, so I don't know whether that's a good thing or not, really, Leicester. But the first ever performance, well, English version of Bizet's Carmen was in Leicester as well, so it's very cultural. And the thing about Leicester is, and It's one of the reasons why I do these videos. It's to show the history of these cities that are just changing, these towns and cities that are changing beyond recognition, and the history and the background to them. So it's worth commenting, really, isn't it? And I suppose the overarching question is it lost forever? Idi Amin, the dictator in Uganda, he ordered the entire Asian community out of the country and gave them 90 days, and in their wisdom, Leicester City Council thought it would be a good idea to launch a campaign to dissuade them from moving to the city, and well, it had the reverse effect actually, because I don't think they'd even heard of Leicester until that point, and it resulted in a large influx and many years later an official apology for it. There's some big brands based in Leicester. I didn't know this until I started digging a little bit, but Next used to be Hepworth's. Bowden is based here, and of course Henry Walker, he was a successful pork butcher who came over from Mansfield, and the first Walker's crisp production line was in an empty upper storey of Walker's on Oxford Street in Leicester again, good old Oxford Street again. And the crisps were originally sliced by hand and cooked in a normal ordinary fat fryer, so did pretty well. 1971 though, the Walker family sold it to Standard Brands, who then sold it on to Frito-Lay, and that's why when you go on holiday and you see Lays, you think, well, these are just like Walker's. Well, it's pretty much the other way around really, that Walker's crisps are like Lays because they own them. And as a result, at Beaumont Leys, the manufacturing plant there is the world's largest crisp factory. So there we are, if you like your crisps, a crisp fact. Okay, so let's have a look what we've got here. Cow feet, anyone? Goat mix and some fish. Something for everyone.